Hello and welcome to another video. In this video we're going to be doing find players with 0 or 1 losses. And in the problem you're given an array matches where matches I winner loser indicates the player winner defeated player loser. Return a list answer of size 2 where answer 0 is a list of all the players that have not lost any matches and answer 1 is a list of all the players that have lost 1 match. The values in the two lists should be returned in increasing order. And so here's an example. So if these are all the matches, basically 1, 2, and 10 never lost a match. And you can see that because 1, 2, and 10 are never in the second index of any one of these because the loser is always in the right. So 1, 2, and 10 are never in here. And 4, 5, 7, and 8 have lost 1 match. That means they are in this like loser side one time. And they kind of tell you that. And second example, so here it looks like 1, 2, 5, 6 have never lost a match. And 4 and 3 lost 2 each, so there's nothing here. So this is basically just testing, can you make a hash map, and do you know how to like use the keys and values and things like that. It's a pretty straightforward problem. And the match's length is 10 to the 5th, so that means that you need an O of n or n log n solution or something. So this is pretty straightforward. Basically, all we really want to do is we want to have a hash map of player and matches lost. And once we have this, we just simply put the players into 2 arrays, right? We take all the players where matches lost equals 0, and we take all the players where matches lost equals 1. And we can simply just sort those 2 arrays and return it. So that's basically all you need to do for this problem. Essentially, we just need to figure out how to, from the matches, how to go through the matches, put the players in stuff, and then return it. And so if we just look at examples of a couple of matches, let's say we actually take, let's take this first example. So like, for example, we'll have match 1 with these 2 players, 1 and 3. So we'll take player 1, it's not in our hash map yet, so we'll add it in. And then we can also add in player 3, and because that person lost the match, we'll add 1. And then for 2 and 3, 2 isn't in our hash map yet, so we'll add it in with 0. And 3 is in it, and they lost, so this is another lost match. Then 3 and 6, 3 is in it, and they didn't lose, so we just leave it as is, and 6 is not in it yet, so we add in 6, and 6 loses a match. So essentially, for every player, you just check, is the first person in here? If they are, do nothing, because they won, so you don't really care. And if they aren't, just put them in with a count of 0. And then for the second player, similarly the same thing. If they are in here, add 1 to the matches they lost. And if they aren't in here, initialize their count to 1. And that's pretty much it. So you'll have this like big dictionary at the end. So let's say we'll just make up some values. So let's say like player 8 lost 2 matches, player 9 lost no matches, player 10 lost 1 match. Then we simply just have to iterate through this dictionary and take everything with 0 losses into one array. So here we have 1, 2, and 9. And this isn't necessarily going to be sorted, so we can just sort it, right? We take this into an array, sort it, and then we take everything with 1 match, put that into an array, so 6 and 10, sort that as well, and that's basically, we just return that. And it's very convenient to do this in Python. So yeah, let's get into the code. Pretty straightforward problem. So what we're going to do is make a dictionary, and I'll use a default dict, but you can use a normal dictionary. And the difference between a default dict and a dictionary is if you try to access a key in a dictionary that doesn't exist, you get an error. If you try to access a key in a default dict that doesn't exist, it will initialize it to 0 or whatever value you have. Like if it's a string, it'll be an empty string and so on. So now we just have to go through all our matches. So we could say for player 1, player 2, in matches, which will destructure each match into the 2 players. So we could say if player 1 not in players, then player 1 equals 0. And if they are in there, we don't need to do anything because their number of lost matches will be the same. Then for player 2, we just simply need to take their count and increment it by 1. So we can say player 2 plus equals 1. And the reason you could do this is because it will access the count for player 2, and if it doesn't exist, it will default it to 0. So actually, what you could do here, if you wanted to, instead of writing this, you could also do this. You could say players 1, or player 1 equals players player 1. And I think that should work as well, because basically it will try to find it. If the value does exist, it will set it to whatever it was, and if it doesn't, it will set it to 0. So it's the same thing. Yeah, and then basically we just need to return now 2 arrays, so we can return 2 arrays, and you want to learn how to use like dictionary or list comprehension, especially for Python. So this is going to be good practice. So I definitely encourage you, if you don't know how to do this, to try to code this up in a dictionary or list comprehension instead of just writing for loops for everything. Because, for example, I did have some interviews for Python roles for big companies where they did ask me things like that. So definitely want to be comfortable with that. So the way to do this is basically you can say sorted, and what sorted will take is it will take an array and it will return a sorted array. So now we just need a list comprehension. So we can just say something like key for key in players if players key equals 0, right? So this is basically saying, let's take every single player in players, and if their value is 0, then let's add it to the array. So that'll give us one array, and now the second array is basically the same thing, right? So it's just going to be the same exact thing, like this, right? So we take every player in players where their value is 0, and then we take every player in players where their value is 1. And this is going to be 2 arrays in this output array. So we can just return it. Submit. And yeah, definitely you should be familiar with like this kind of syntax if you are using Python instead of just writing for loops for everything. So you can see this is pretty efficient. And the time here. So essentially what's going to happen is this is basically n log n, because let's say like half the players lost a match and half the players didn't or something, right? Like worst case scenario, each one of these arrays is going to be like half the players or something. Actually, it can be even more. Yeah, because it can actually be every player but one. Like let's say you have like 1 million players and every player beat like player 0. So all of your matches are just those players beating player 0. That would mean this would be literally every single player except for player 0, which would be n log n because you have to sort it. And space is O of n. Well, actually, yeah, I guess worst case it would be O of n, right? Because you can have a bunch of unique players. So let's just say every match is between 2 different players. Basically, you'll have n over 2 players in here. And yeah, I think that's going to be all for this one. So like I said, definitely be comfortable with the syntax. Pretty easy problem. And yeah, if you like this one, please like the video and please subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.